Shalom to all my brothers and sisters worldwide. Today I'm going to answer a few questions, important questions that are asked about Karaite Jews in general. I'm going to make several videos asking many questions that do get asked a lot and hopefully covering as much as possible. Now, if you're not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. I'm going to be posting a lot more videos, and I have a lot of videos already on my channel that you can look at, many different subjects. You can look through them all. There's many topics. I never stay on the same subject over and over. There are many topics, and there's a lot more to come. Okay, so one of the questions that is asked a lot is, what is charism? Well, there are many ways to define charism in general. Ironically, many of the ways charism is usually defined by others are incorrect, many times. For instance, charism does not teach that anyone should interpret the Torah literally all the time. This is a misconception. It's not true. We have to understand, based on the context and careful study, what is figurative and literal. It's very basic. The second effective way to understand charism and understand our understanding towards the Torah, the word fundamentalist, unlike its popular connotation in life, does not imply a right-wing political bent. Rather, it implies a close, precise reading of the text. That's what we're all about. Study the text in context, study every day. I study for hours on end every day because I want to make sure that I can answer questions when asked about scripture in general. We don't cherry pick scripture like a lot of cults do and groups do. We want to study every day in context, the whole scriptures. A second effective definition of what charism does not consider, for example, is that any text aside from the 24 books of Tanakh have divine status. This is not the case with charism. We look only to Tanakh and Tanakh alone as the authority. If you truly are a Karaite, the way it should be, according to the origins of charism, Tanakh is the only authority. Nothing else. Not the state of Israel, not some rabbi. It's about Tanakh. It's about the Hebrew scriptures. It's about Elohim, following the true way of the Creator. That's what it means to be a Karaite, Israelite in general. Kara, just to let you guys know, for those of you who are new, Kara in Karaim or Karaite, Kara is the ancient term which was used today for Tanakh. In the ancient world, Kana was the form of saying Tanakh. So just to let you know, just so you guys want to figure out what that really means. So Karaim, Karaites, it's like saying scripturalists or Tanakhites, Tanakhism. We follow Tanakh. The Hebrew scriptures is the authority, and it always should be. Nothing else. It's very simple. This is opposed to the rabbinical movement. Now again, this is not an attack because I love my brothers and sisters, whether Orthodox. I respect the traditions, I respect the Talmud, I respect it all. But I'm just speaking for charism in general. Again, not every Karaite, because I don't care if you're a Karaite and you don't like me, you don't like my videos. I could care less. Go somewhere else. Nobody cares. Next, we are not against the Talmud whatsoever, or rabbinical interpretation of Tanakh. We believe that the answers can be found in the Tanakh alone and nothing else. But we do not reject everything from the Talmud. For example, we don't reject and say, at least I won't say, and many others will not say, the whole Talmud is blasphemy against the Hebrew scriptures. We don't do that. We basically look at it as not divine from Mount Sinai or from the time of Moshe or beyond. We basically say that the 5 books of Moses and the Hebrew scriptures are divinely inspired. Everything else is considered wisdom, and we can learn from and take apart and basically analyze with great carefulness what is wise and what is not. Just like we also each one of us take in information and read it carefully. And when we know something is correct and on par with our beliefs, we accept it. If it's not based on what we know is true, we reject it, just like with Christianity and other things. So, do Karaites interpret the Torah literally? The answer is no. Karaites believe in a straightforward interpretation of the Torah and the Tanakh in general, but we don't take everything literal. We have to decipher what is literal or figurative. For example, there's a passage in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 8, and chapter 11, verse 18, where it talks about, "It shall be a sign upon your hand as a remembrance between your eyes." We consider this figurative, not literal. Now, Orthodox Jews will consider it literal, and that's okay. That's our interpretation. We take it as figurative because there are other places throughout Tanakh that talk about putting the Torah upon your heart, putting it in your inward parts, placing it upon your tongue and in your mouth and in your ears. We can't take everything literal, so we cipher, study carefully, and interpret it in that sort of way. So no, everything is not literal. We have to be careful, study carefully, and study the whole Tanakh as a whole to answer the questions that people may have. Okay? Do Karaites bow when they pray? Yes. When you walk into a Karaite synagogue, it looks as if, almost, I don't want to say like a mosque, but a lot of people will misinterpret this and say, yeah, it looks like a mosque. Well, you might notice it looks more like a mosque than a rabbinical synagogue. Instead of rows of chairs, there are carpets on the floor. We remove our shoes when we enter into the main part of the synagogue. Remove our shoes because Moshe removed his sandals when he approached Elohim. So we have carpets on the floor, of course. Unlike a mosque, Karaite synagogues are dedicated to the worship of Yehovah, the God of Israel. Now, the primary reason for the carpets is so that the Karaite worshippers may bow down before Elohim. Bowing down to Elohim is mentioned myriads of times throughout the Torah and the Tanakh in general, as a symbol of submission and loyalty. For instance, Psalms 95 verse 6 says, "Come, let us prostrate ourselves, bow down and bend our knees before Yehovah our Maker." At prescribed times during the prayer service, worshipers will leave their default seated positions and assume the kneeling positions in preparation for prostration, bowing before Elohim Almighty. Do Karaites wear tefillin? No, despite the rumors spread for centuries by certain rabbis and Karaites that we wear tefillin directly between our eyes. In fact, Karaites do not wear tefillin at all. We never have. The source of the rumor is the same as that of other age-old false rumors that Karaites hang tzitzit on the walls. This is not true, because in the Tanakh they say, well, it states that you will look upon the tzitzit in front of your eyes. So the rumor came up that we hang our tzitzit on the wall and just stare at it on the wall. It's not true. The source for most of these false rumors is the way Karaites traditionally interpret Exodus 35 verse 3 as a complete prohibition against allowing any fires to be lit or remain burning during the Shabbat. Well, this literal interpretation has been questioned over the years by certain prominent Karaites, or so-called Karaites, prominent ones, such as Sima Babovich, which Karaites have traditionally adhered to it and still do to this day. It is from here that the opponents of the Karaites began to claim that Karaites interpret the scriptures literally, which is not the case, like I mentioned before. Do Karaites worship Yehoshua or Yeshua, or in plain English, Jesus? No, Karaites consider traditional Christianity of any form of Christianity which holds that Jesus or Yehoshua has divine or semi-divine status to be outright idol worship idolatry, and falsehood. And that it raises one of Elohim's creations to the level of creator or semi-creator, either in part or in full identically. This is precisely the view that Islam holds towards Christianity as well. That this is nonsense. In addition, almost all Karaites completely reject Jesus or Yehoshua as a prophet or as the Messiah that will return and reign over Israel, against the claims of Islam. In this regard, charism differs from Islam, in that Islam holds Jesus or Yehoshua to be a prophet, or amongst certain Muslim sects, a future king over Israel. This is nonsense, according to the Hebrew Scriptures, and no basis whatsoever. This was adopted from Christian concepts. It's not based on Hebrew Scriptures whatsoever. So we reject that. For now, this is just a few things. I will state more questions and answers in videos to come. I'm going to put more videos on today as well. Shalom.